screen, please feel free to turn off your cameras. So I will start again. Welcome, good afternoon. I'm Kimberly Blackarincán. I'm the director of the Ignite Hub. Thank you for joining us today virtually in our virtual space of the Hub on Zoom. We have our final Future of Tech Lunch and Learn session this week for the school year. We'll be back in the fall, but this program has been a year-long program where we invite in representatives from the community to talk about an exciting type of technology that the general community should know about and be excited about. So we want to get people excited about innovation and technology as well. This guest speaker series is also hosted by Verizon. They are our sponsor for our speaker series. So thank you to them for their very generous support of the Hub. Today's session that we have is solar PV monitoring and troubleshooting, and we have two amazing guests right here in Montgomery County who are going to talk to us today about solar technology and some cool ways that we can learn to use this technology. Our first speaker that we actually have two, and I'm glad that we have two. Our first one is Cindy McCabe. She's the Associate Director of Renewable Energy Programs for the Montgomery County Green Bank. Cindy comes to the Green Bank after working as a residential solar sales manager with Tesla in Maryland and as a residential and commercial solar project manager with a local solar installer in Washington, D.C. and Virginia. Cindy brings a wealth of experience in solar customer acquisition, contract management, and utility relations, as well as high-level knowledge of solar project design, operations, and maintenance. Originally from New Jersey, Cindy attended the Graduate School of Education at Rutgers University. After graduating from Rutgers, Cindy served in the Peace Corps in Bolivia, where she became fluent in Spanish and completed a successful large environmental project for her site and for the surrounding areas. Cindy later attended the School of Public Affairs at American University, where she studied environmental policy and statistics. So welcome, Cindy. Our other speaker is Jordan Taylor. He is a seasoned professional in the renewable energy industry, currently serving as the Associate Director of Renewable Energy at the Montgomery County Green Bank. He has over 2 decades of experience in residential and commercial solar development and brings a wealth of expertise in customer acquisition, construction management, and building science to the bank. He holds formal education in engineering technology and energy efficiency and has a proven track record for delivering multi-million-dollar bottom line growth. Jordan also has a deep understanding of real estate, which adds value to clients when selling or purchasing and renovating properties. With his extensive knowledge and experience, he is a valuable asset to the Montgomery County Green Bank team, working towards achieving the bank's clean energy and energy efficiency objectives. Thank you, Cindy and Jordan, for joining us. We look forward to hearing your presentation. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Cindy.
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Eduardo and Watani as well from the Ignite Hub. I actually don't live very far away at all from the building there, maybe a mile down the street in Rockville. So I'll have to come by once everyone is safe. Let me go ahead and jump into a couple slides that I put together. Okay, just 1 second while I move things around a little bit here. There we go. Okay. This is one of the faith-based communities where we helped finance solar installation. I always like to throw those pictures up there. They make me happy. So our agenda for today, there might be some folks on here who are not very familiar with how solar works. So I figured we would do a brief solar 101, not too in-depth in case there's anyone who already knows how solar works. I don't want anyone falling asleep, right? Then we will design our own solar systems. using a tool from NREL called PV Watts. Eduardo or Watani, maybe you could put that link in the chat when we get to it. And then we will look at Tesla's Powerwall site. Tesla makes a battery called Powerwall, so you can back up your solar system and use your own energy independently. So we can take a look at that, play around with it a little bit. And then my colleague Jordan, who's having some trouble joining us, will talk a little bit about the monitoring technology and how the installers can troubleshoot a solar system that you might have installed. So so let's start from the basics, right? I mean, a lot of people jump right into how much money you can save with solar, but I like to connect it to the environment. So does anybody know how solar helps the environment? Feel free to just unmute. Can people unmute, Kimberly?
They should be able to.
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so with the solar energy, well, that's naturally occurring, and there is no pollution generation. So correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is it's 100% emission free, completely green.
It is close to 100%. I mean, every time you create anything, there's a little bit of leftover materials, right? Solar can be recycled, so it is much, much cleaner than the current methods of energy generation. Raj, how is electricity generated that's not from solar? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Ask the question again, please.
Sure. So a building that doesn't have solar panels on it, how the electricity that they use when they turn on the light, how is that generated from Pepco, BG&E, Potomac Edison?
You mean other sources of energy?
Yes. How do the electric utility companies make the energy?
It could be nuclear power plants. It could be air. Or what do we call them? They rotate. I forgot what you call them. Or we have water-based dams from that. Yeah.
Yep, that's all those answers are right. There's one big one that I just want to add, which is burning fossil fuels. Coal.
Yep.
Yeah, burning fossil fuels,
Yep.
gas and coal. So where we are, it's mostly burning fossil fuels, some nuclear from the nuclear power plant in Southern Maryland on Calvert Cliffs. And if you've heard anything about what could happen at nuclear power plants when things go wrong, you know that it's could be scary, right? To think about what could happen at a nuclear power plant. So we want to use clean energy. We want to use the sun that's always out there. It comes up every day, even if it's cloudy, even if it's rainy, the solar panels still do produce some electricity. So we want to get away from burning fossil fuels because the burning of the fossil fuels will contaminate the air. The leftover ash can contaminate the earth and get into our waterways, and it increases the amount of asthma in the area. So almost everybody knows somebody with asthma, right? My mom has asthma. Everybody knows somebody with asthma. So we want to clean the air and help keep that ash and the other byproducts off. So that's why we're talking about this. That's why we're looking at renewable energy. Other benefits are that if you own your solar system, it can increase the value of your home. It also can increase the life of your roof. And it will also lower the temperature underneath the roof in the summer. And then the third one, everybody already knows, it can lower your energy costs. So a couple things about why solar. I think it's important to connect back. Thank you, Raj, for your help. So quickly, how does solar work? So this is a house. Obviously, not every house looks like this. There are also buildings, solar parking canopies. there are fields of solar panels that you may have seen in the county or otherwise. So let's just look at a house, right? One thing you can notice is that in the middle of the roof, there's this little peak that's called a dormer, and there's no solar panels on there. So you can't put solar panels everywhere. And basically, if you're looking at solar, a solar installer has technology that can show you where solar panels can be, how many, and they'll take a look at your bills and show you how solar for your house can help your electric bills, right? Now let's talk a little bit about the part of the system that's on the side of the house. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. You can see that there's a brownish yellow line coming down the house that holds all of the electrical wiring. There are also inverters a lot of times underneath each solar panel, and that's what we'll talk about when we go into monitoring troubleshooting. There are a couple boxes on the side of the house. So one of them changes the electricity from the direct current of the sun to the alternating current that we use inside the house. And then the electricity will go to your fuse box, and anything inside the house that's pulling electricity will primarily pull from the electricity produced by the solar panels. Now I want you to see that the rest of the yellow line goes to a utility pole, which means that even if you have solar, you're still connected to the utility grid. And you want to be as a backup. You want to have as many sources of power as possible, because as we know, power goes out. So we always want to be connected to the grid. Now, one thing to know is that if the grid goes down, if the power goes out in your area, most of the solar systems will automatically shut off unless they have battery backup. Most solar systems don't have battery backup because it's fairly new technology and it's still fairly expensive. So if you don't have a battery to store your energy, your extra energy goes back to the grid and what we call net metering. So everyone has a utility meter that counts how much electricity you use. And normally, if you don't have solar, it just goes up in the numbers, as you can see when you get your bill. So it counts how many kilowatt hours of electricity you use, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The old meters would actually spin a little dial. Now, if you are using solar energy and maybe there's a little bit extra, maybe it's a bright sunny day, nobody's home, that extra electricity will get sold back to the grid and your meter will spin backwards, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, erasing your electricity. You can monitor all of those movements of electricity through your inverters. And the inverters have apps now on your phone, on your laptop, where you can see how much electricity you're producing in the moment. The county executive loves to show people his solar app on his phone, and he can show you how much electricity he's producing right now. You could also see how much electricity you have produced in the past, and you can see if maybe one of your panels isn't producing any electricity. And if that's sustained for maybe 24 to 48 hours, they have alerts set up to alert your solar installer so that they come out and check and see what's going on with that panel or panels if they're underproducing. So that's all already set up, the monitoring, but it's cool that you can monitor yourself as well. Let me take a moment and see if anybody has any questions before we keep going. No questions yet?
I just wanted to say that if anybody has questions, they can also post it on the chat and I'll be more than happy to relay them to Cindy.
Thank you, Eduardo. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Well, if you have any questions, go ahead and jump in. What we're going to do right now is if anybody has a utility bill or a way to log in to see their utility bill, pull it up now. And if anybody wants to share their utility bill, we can do so, or else we can look at one of mine. So right now we're going to go to the PV Watts website. So I'm going to switch over and reshare my screen in a minute. So this is the time where you can be logging into your utility account and pulling up your utility bill if you have it. Does anyone have a utility bill and they want to share it?
I'm still logging in.
Okay, no problem. I've pulled up mine, so I'm going to go ahead and share it. Okay. So I have community solar, so my bill is pretty low, and we can talk about community solar as well. So I can't have solar on my house because I have beautiful tall trees, and a good solar company won't tell you to cut your trees down. And so my bills are not that high, as you can see. What I want to show you is this chart here with the green and blue bars. Eduardo, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Thank you. Okay. So first thing I want to show you is the years here. You see these 19s and 20s. But this bill is not my latest bill. It's just one that I had in my files. So you see here that there are green bars and blue bars. So why isn't there a blue bar here and here? Well, because I moved into my house in November of 2019, right? So if you switch accounts, you also might not have historical usage, but you can see that each bar tells you what year and what month it's from. Most people just look at the total amount due, right? And the day that they have to pay it, and that's all they care about. But I'm a little bit of an energy nerd, and I like to look at my bills. So I can see here that, whoa, something happened in January and February where my usage shot up. Well, I got a tenant who was using more electricity. So that explains it. But what I want us to take a look at is how much electricity I use in a year. So you can take a look here. So this bar means that I used a little bit over 400 kilowatt hours of electricity in October of 2020. And what I want you all to do, if you have a second, is count up how much electricity you used in the last 12 months. So you would count up all the green bars, 12 green bars. You could put a ruler or something across the bars if you want to see, but just eyeball it, guesstimate it, how much it was. And that's what we'll use to build a solar system. So that's how the solar installers actually build your system, is by counting up these little bars. After they build your solar system, they might ask you for the last 12 bills so they have the exact numbers, but they'll eyeball it first to see how much electricity you might use in a year. And if you have a big difference, they might use the larger amount or something in the middle to guesstimate it. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So for the purposes of saving time, I'm going to say that I counted up all my bars, but I'm just going to use a fictional number because I don't want to count it all on the screen with you guys and waste your time. So let's say that I used 4,500 kilowatt hours in a year. So now we're going to jump over, once you have your number of how many kilowatt hours you use in 12 months, so you're only counting the last year, not both color bars, just the last 12 months. We're going to go over to the PV Watts site. So I'm going to switch over to there. Hopefully you're still all with me. Some of you maybe.
I posted the link on the chat.
Thank you so much. Okay. Then at the PV Watts site, let me move my bar so I can see here. You'll put in your address. What's the address of the Ignite Hub? 900 or 9,000?
900 Hungerford.
Hungerford, thank you. Put in your own address. I'm not going to share my home address, but just for purposes of recording the system, I'm putting something that's close to my house so that the PV Watts site knows how much sun I get, right? You don't want to put a site in Texas or somewhere else because then you won't get accurate sun data. Okay, so this shows about where I'm located, right? I live around there. And then you go to system info. And you can see the defaults that they put in. The defaults are fine. Don't worry about those. You can change it a little bit higher if you are in the solar industry and you know how big of a system you want. But otherwise, you can use the default information. You can draw your system. That's really cool. So take a moment and play around and take a look. Let's take a look at that while we're here. Okay. Let's draw a system on your roof. How's that sound, guys? Let's make this bigger. Okay. So you want to get to the corners. Now, one thing to note is that it's going to put solar panels all over the equipment that's on the top of the roof and the vents. So that's why we have the solar installers do it with their equipment, because they know how to put the solar panels outside of the obstructions, we call them, and obstructions include anything that's up there on the roof. So now that I've put the solar systems up, I'm just looking for the solar panel button here. Oh, and look at how many solar panels can fit up there on your roof. Way more than I need for my little utility bill, right? So a lot of times you have a small house and a big utility bill. In this case, we're looking at my utility bill, which is small, and this giant roof. So that's way too big. So let's go back and see what we've got here. I see something in the chat. Eduardo, any questions coming up? Or is somebody messaging me?
No, just letting us know that yeah, they got the link, so it's good.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Perfect. Okay. And so this shows me
Yeah.
how much. Oh, sorry. Did someone say something?
Yeah, Cindy, I have a couple of questions here.
Sure.
So on top of a building, there could be some obstacles, some equipment installed related to the building. So excluding that space, let's say 100 square yards open space is available, just to make the math easier. I'm picking easier numbers. So is there like a standard rule of thumb where you would say we could only use 60% of the open space, and the county or the state code requires that 40% or whatever percentage may be the case has to be kept open?
Right. So there are fire setbacks, and the installers will take care of that when they go into permitting for your system. So I wouldn't worry about that, but you're completely correct. That you need to leave a 4 foot setbacks. I think it's 3 feet. Now I'm second guessing myself, but we're not going to get into that right now.
Okay.
This is not going to be a proposal that you're going to send to the solar installer and say, hey, I designed my own system, because this is just for fun. We're just playing around here.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want to, we can set up a time and I can talk to you more about your specific home. It's just that everybody's property is different. We don't want to get into all the intricacies of obstructions and things like that, and fire setbacks, just for purposes of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing I want to look at here is the number of kilowatt hours per year my solar system is going to produce. Now, one thing you can notice is that this is more than the number that I said before, right? I said 4,500 kilowatt hours per year. So this solar system, it was a 4 kilowatt system, if you remember, which is the default, will produce more than what I need. So most likely the solar installer, if this was an accurate design, would drop it down. Now the little tool that we just played with, where I put the corners of the roof up for 900 Hungerford, that one didn't save I didn't see a save button, so it just defaulted back to the small 4 kilowatt system. Okay. So one thing I just want you to know here is think about how much you use in a year and about how much this one produces. And like I said, we're not looking for accuracy here. The solar installers will make you an accurate proposal, but you can play around with this to see what you might make in a year and what size system you want. One thing to note is that a 4 kilowatt system costs a lot less money than, let's say, a 200 kilowatt system, right? So if you have a 4 kilowatt system and you want to pay for it in cash, that's great. You might be able to do that. If you have a 200 kilowatt system and you want to pay for it in cash, that's much different. So how you pay for your solar system, that's where the Montgomery County Green Bank comes in. So if you have any questions about that, about financing a solar system in Montgomery County, we're not going to get into that for today, but just let us know. So this is just a cool tool to play with, not a real life application that you're going to use to build a solar system. You actually can't install your own solar system in Montgomery County. You have to go through an installer. So let me switch over. Has Jordan joined us at all, my colleague, or is he still unable to join? No, not yet. Okay, no problem. So now we are going to look at Tesla's Powerwall site so we can back up some of this electricity.
So
Eduardo,
Cindy, is this only for individual homes, or condo buildings or apartment buildings can also look into this?
that is a great question, Raj. So condo owners don't own their roof, so they wouldn't be able to individually install solar. However, condo associations can install solar and use the electricity either for a community solar project or for the common space area metering. So the common area bills like lighting, the hallways and things like that, they could use the solar for that. Again, if you have a property you're interested in talking about, please send me an email. Eduardo is going to put my email in the chat in a little bit, and we can talk about solar for your property. For, what did you say, condos, HOAs? Yes, HOA, for an HOA, you own your own roof and you can install solar. And in Maryland, there's a solar access law that protects the rights of members of HOAs to go solar. The only exception is if you're in a historical district. And if you are in a historical district, you would know because you have to sign certain papers when you buy the house. And in that case, you can't put solar on the area that's facing the street. So that's the only exception. Great question, Raj.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so let's take a look at Tesla's website. So you may have to put in an address at the Tesla website. You could put in your own address or you can make up an address. Either way, we're not going to buy anything. You're not going to put any credit card information in at all. Okay, guys? We're not buying anything. We're just playing around, right? So Powerwall is the name of Tesla's backup battery, and you can see how expensive they are, right? One thing you want to note is that it does not include the installation cost, right? If you're a homeowner and you've ever installed anything, you know that the installation costs can be the same price as an item, right? So I need new struts for my car and shame on me, I should have an electric vehicle. But anyway, the labor for the installation of the struts is the same price as the struts. So just keep that in mind, that this star here is very important when you're looking at the price. Again, if you need financing, we can talk about financing separately. So you can play around here. Do you currently have solar? Let's imagine that we do, right? Are you expanding a Powerwall system? That would mean that you already have Powerwall and you want more. And let's talk about why you might want another Powerwall battery. So if I install a Powerwall battery because I want emergency backup power, one Powerwall might be enough for me. An installer would be able to tell you exactly how many you need. But if I want to be able to run everything like my air conditioner or my heating system, if it's on electric, I might need more than one Powerwall battery. If I want to be able to run everything in my house, maybe I have a bunch of people living there and they're all playing games or mining Bitcoin or something like that, I will need a lot of Powerwall batteries. So how many you need, you would talk to the installer about that. And you might decide at some point that you want more. Why could that be? You put in a jacuzzi. If you do that, make sure you invite me to come over, right? Just kidding. You might, yeah, we all have more and more electronics, it seems like. Do you remember back in the day, we would just be charging a cell phone? Now we're charging our watch, our AirPods, or whatever kind of pods you have, right? I'm not trying to promote Apple or anything, but we're charging all kinds of things now. We have charging bases, right?
Energy.
So yes, more and more things. Laptop, of course, your everything. So you might want more Powerwalls as things go on. Now let's look at backup duration. This is the cool tool that I wanted to take a look at. This is where we go. So you could put in your average electricity bill. I would say through the year, throughout the whole year, mine's about 100. And I don't know if you noticed, but this changed to how much backup power I would have. And it's telling me how much of a solar system to put in. So I can change that. And it changed again. So just play around with it. You can put in your bill. You can put in whether or not you have solar, how much, because you don't need solar to get Powerwall backup battery. So you can fill your Powerwall with power from the grid and then use it in case of a storm. Just keep in mind that the tax credit that you can get with the clean energy batteries does not qualify unless you have solar. But talk to your accountant about that. I'm not an accountant. Okay. So just know if you have solar, if you have a backup batteries without solar, you might not qualify for the solar tax credit. So just take a look here and see, right? Let's change this quantity of batteries to 2. You see how that went up a lot? So it's giving me more backup power. Now, if I have 3, it jumped up to days instead of hours. Right. And it also is showing if it's that usually there's no solar production. Usually it's low, but they just have it on the range for now. You see how it's a bar. But if it's a cloudy day, it might be lower. And then a winter day, and then a summer day. So you can see the usage really changes. So when people say, how many batteries do I need? Or the most popular question I get is, how long does the battery last? It depends. It depends. How long does the battery on your phone last? Well, that depends on what you're doing. If you have 10% and you forgot your charger, you're not going to be doing much on your phone that day, right? You're going to want it to last longer. But if you have your charger with you, you might be doing all kinds of things on your phone and that will last longer, right? Or well, if you have your charger, right? I think you guys know what I mean. And then you can also reduce your consumption if you want your battery to last longer. So play around with that. Does anybody have any questions right now, Eduardo? You do.
Yes, I do. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but my question was, is the technology used in the Powerwall the same technology as Tesla is using in their electric vehicles? Is the same type of battery? And the second part of that question is, there's been some concern while, you know, the environmental impact that these batteries will have. I mean, you know, they do save a lot of, but they are going to have some environmental impact. I don't know if you can comment on both of those things. Thank you. And if anybody has questions, just go ahead and unmute or post them in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. So first question, it always trips me up when people ask more than one at the same time, but I think I got it. So the first question is, are the batteries the same as the ones they use in the car? Well, they're similar. They're not the same. They're similar. They use the same type of technology, the lithium ion technology. The car batteries are much heavier and they weigh the cars down, and that's why the cars are safe. The Powerwalls are also heavy. For example, if you want to have a freestanding battery, you have to build a concrete platform for it. That's how heavy it is. Yeah. So they do use the same lithium ion technology. The cool thing about the car battery, so I actually for a time was in Tesla's vehicle department with the cars. And the cool thing about the car batteries is that if something goes wrong with the battery, they can replace individual cells and they don't have to replace the whole battery. Another cool tip about the car batteries is people say, well, how long does it last? And you know how for a car, you could expect it to go, my car has 230,000 miles on it, which is a lot. For the Tesla cars, the expected mileage is 1 million miles. Isn't that crazy? Crazy in a good way. Crazy in a good way. And then your second question, what about the environmental impact? So they are working on ways to recycle lithium, but you're right. There's never zero environmental impact. And that's why I mentioned that in the beginning. It's not that it's 100% clean. There's always some, but it's less. And we are improving on ways to recycle lithium ion because it's a limited resource. So we want to stretch it out. And the US in particular, because we don't have vast supply of lithium here. So we are really working on developing technologies for that. We don't have plants right now that I know of, and correct me if I'm wrong, that produce or recycle the lithium, but we are very interested in it because we want to be independent of, not dependent upon other countries for our lithium. So yeah, that's new and coming for sure. Very interesting.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure, no problem.
Cindy,
Yes.
have you seen instances where people, let's say they need only 100 kilowatts, but they decided to go for 200 or 300 because enough space is available, and on top of that, they could basically sell it back to the grid?
So great question. Wonderful question. So there's a little bit of a difference between doing that for a residential building for home versus a commercial building. There's different permitting and different regulations. So let's start with residential. So for a residential home, you have a limit of how much electricity you can produce with solar. That limit is 200% of your yearly usage. So remember when we talked about calculating your yearly consumption? That number is really important when designing a solar system. And you can only go over 100 if you have a reason, and you actually have to give the permitting department that reason. Let's say you're planning on buying 2 EVs or some other increase in electrical consumption is planned, you have to let them know. Any extra electricity that you produce is sold back to the grid, but we don't want you to be selling more energy than you're using in a year. And the reason is that the electric companies give you credit for each extra kilowatt that you give back. But if you have left over at the end of the year, when they convert it to a dollar amount, it's less than the amount that you pay for the electricity. So you get the wholesale cost, not the total cost. So you don't get any net gain. People love getting checks from the electric company, and maybe just the fact that they're giving you money is good for you, but economically you don't benefit if you have a net overage after the fiscal year for the utilities, which is around March 31st. So throughout the year, you will carry over that credit, like carryover minutes used to have with cell phone plans, and you can use them throughout the year, which is important because you might produce a lot of electricity in the spring, but you might not be using a lot of it. So you can carry that over, those credits, to the summer. Commercially, you can produce more than you need, and it's unlimited, but you would be installing a community solar system where all of the electricity goes directly to the utility and then gets parceled out in subscriptions. So do you remember I told you on my bill is lower because I have community solar? I can't have solar on my house, so I subscribe to community solar system that's located elsewhere, and I get a discount on my bill. So that's community solar, where you have so much roof space and very little bills. We need to get solar on that Ignite Hub, by the way. I forgot to say that. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, you sell the subscriptions out to different people in the community, and anyone who pays a utility bill, whether they rent or not, can subscribe to a community solar project, help renewable energy, and get some savings on your bill. Usually the savings is around 10%. Otherwise, if you wanted to use the electricity in the commercial building, you would be limited again by that 200% offset that I talked about for residential. Okay.
This reminds me of something, Cindy. I live in
Mhm.
DC and I contacted Pepco maybe more than a year ago. I live in a not a commercial. I live in a condo building. And when I talked about the rates, actually to get solar energy from a community solar project kind of a thing, it would be more expensive compared to what we are paying right now.
Say that again, Raj, the last part.
Yeah, it would be more expensive to get solar energy from a community solar project kind of a thing compared to what we are paying to Pepco right now.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
how did you find that out? Did the community solar subscription people tell you that?
I spoke with the Pepco, and because this is a condo building, this is not an individual home that I live at, and it would be more expensive, so we did not pursue actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just remember that when you're looking at how much you pay for your electricity with Pepco, you want to look at both the supply rate and the delivery rate. And I can show you how to do that on your bill. So you want to take your total bill for that month, the total amount, subtract the customer charge, because that will never change whether you have community solar or not. So it's not an offsettable charge. So take the total amount, let's say it's $75 for your monthly bill, subtract the customer charge, which is usually around $8, divided by the number of kilowatt hours you use that month, and that gives you your total rate. You don't want to compare it with the rate that you're paying for your supply or your supply rate, because it doesn't include all the delivery charges in it. So your supply rate might be 8 cents or 7 cents a kilowatt hour, but your total rate, your offsettable rate, is going to be closer to 16 cents for residents right now in Pepco territory. So that's the rate that you want to compare to the community solar rate, because it'll get a credit. You'll get a credit on your bill that'll be comparable to both of those rates combined. So just make sure, because I know Pepco sometimes mentions to people when they're comparing rates, just the supply rate, thinking that you might be getting a third-party supplier and not a community solar subscription.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so we're kind of running out of time. Is it okay if I keep going? Yeah, okay, all right. So this is a short video. It talks a little bit about the monitoring platforms that solar has. The most popular right now is Enphase. I'm not trying to tell you that you should get Enphase monitoring. That I'm not trying. This is not a sales pitch for Enphase. It's just the most common one, and they have nice videos. So let's look at the video.
There's no audio, Cindy.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I think I have to click the button when I share that says I have to share my audio, right? Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Always forget that. Sorry, everybody. Right now I need to rewind a little bit.
All of the components in the system to the Enphase
Maybe that's
cloud and then to the app. Different things. First, you have information that's transmitted from all of the components in the system to the Enphase cloud and then to the app. So that allows you to monitor how much energy the system has produced over time, how much energy you're consuming in your home because of some additional hardware that we install. If you have a battery system, you can see how much energy is going into the batteries and what the state of charge is, basically how full those batteries are at any time. There are additional things that you can do, like control the loads in your home if you have load control installed and set up. So you can turn off certain appliances if you know you're going to be running your home off of backup power and you want to make sure that your system is stable and that you don't overload your system.
One of my favorite features is that I can see how much I've saved, on a daily, weekly, monthly view.
Right. It's very simple to set up in the app. You can enter what your average cost of electricity was before you got solar, and then it'll tell you exactly what that energy production was for that given day or that given month, for example, what that's worth in dollars right on the app.
And the installer also has additional information that they can share with the customer as well through their app. Is that right?
That's right. Installers actually have a version of the app that's really designed for professional solar companies. It allows them to see all kinds of technical information about every single component in your system, including the microinverters. So they can actually see how much power that the microinverter is putting out at that moment in time, as well as its temperature, the voltage of the grid, and all kinds of other technical details that homeowners don't really need to know. But an installer can use that information to make sure that your system is working at its maximum capability and producing the most amount of power that it could.
If you didn't get your question answered today, please.
Okay, so that's sort of like an introduction. I think I may have mentioned some of this already. And there's one other video, it's a little bit longer, so we might not watch the whole thing, that shows you the app. I wish I could show you the app, but like I said, I don't have a solar system. I have beautiful trees, so I can't show you my own app, but the county executive can if you ever meet him. So I jumped ahead a little bit because it said how to log in to your account and everything. So we are jumping into the app. You can see here though, before we get started, do you see in the middle, there's a little house right there? That's your house. This is your solar system. This is your backup battery. This is the grid. So let's hear a little bit about this.
Use the icons at the bottom of the screen to navigate between the 4 main pages of the app. Let's start by looking at status. Monitor your system from the Status tab, your home screen, each time you open the app. Look at a snapshot of how your energy is being used and access shortcuts to battery controls and settings. At the top of the screen, you'll see general information like the weather and your current grid connection. If you have a home battery in your system, you'll also see the charge level and the selected profile. In the center, an infographic displays how much energy is moving through each part of your system and where it's going. You can also view your net energy production, which displays if you are net importing or exporting. At the bottom, the Energy Independence Score displays how much of your power is coming from your own home energy system instead of your public utility. Tap Live Status to view the real-time performance of your system. Live Status is similar to your home screen status with a few key differences. Instead of updating every 15 minutes, this infographic updates every second and displays how much power is being made, used, or transferred between your home, solar panels, batteries, and the grid at any given instant. Tap Energy to learn about your system performance.
All right, well, let's stop there. This is a free video. It's on Enphase's website. So you just go to enphase.com and they have tons and tons of videos. You can learn about solar all day, all weekend if you want. Maybe you run out of things to watch on Netflix, right? So we've got about 5 minutes left. So I thought we would stop and just leave time for chatting, or maybe we can give you your time back. I don't know, Kimberly, how you want to do that, or Eduardo, or Watney.
I love that this is an intimate group. So we have had questions throughout. There are a few guests that are here that haven't necessarily chimed in, not good or bad, but I feel like the opportunity is there. So I'll extend an invitation to everybody here. Again, do you have any questions about the information that was presented? I'll just leave it at that. We can leave it for Q&A.
I have a
Eduardo, do you
question,
mind
Cindy.
putting my contact information in the chat? I'm sorry for interrupting whoever was speaking. Please go ahead.
I had a question. So it's really interesting for me. And thank you, Raj, for all of the condo question, because I'm in a condo too. I'm like, this is interesting. But I how do I get the community energy that you were talking about? Do I just contact my Pepco company, or is there a company I should contact?
Sure. If you are looking for a community solar subscription,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't want to have the condo association install solar, you just want to have
I don't know if they can. They're very, difficult.
Well, so yeah, so those are two different things, right? So if you did want to talk to your condo association about it and they were interested, you can contact me and I can walk you guys through that. But if you just want individually to look into community solar, you could go to one of two websites, Solar United Neighbors or Neighborhood Sun, and I will pull that up and put it in the chat in just a moment.
Awesome. And are there do you know if there's any complications? Like, do we need to go through the condo also to do the community subscription?
No, for the community solar subscription, it's just on your individual Pepco bill. So you sign up with the community solar subscriber organization and they tell Pepco that you've signed up. You don't have to contact Pepco at all. It'll just be put on your bill. It has nothing to do with the building that you live in.
Okay.
So no, there's no restrictions on that. You can even have community solar if you have a solar system installed and it's not producing enough. You're still using some Pepco. You can offset that additional Pepco usage with the community solar subscription.
Awesome. So if I start with this community solar subscription and then I advocate with the HOA and they say, okay, we're going to go, there's going to be no problem with kind of transitioning over to having a system, right?
There's no conflict at all. It's two separate things. Another question I usually get about community solar is, what if I have a third-party provider? You might be paying for some wind or something on your bill. There's no conflict either. You can actually have all three. You can have solar in your house. You can have a community solar subscription if you need extra power from solar, and you can have a third-party provider just in case you use any of the grid electricity. The third-party provider would take over that last little bit of usage that might be extra. None of them conflict with each other.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Just to add to that, when it comes to a condo building, I think it depends on the kind of condo building, because in my case, I do not get an individual bill at all. It is part of the condo fee that I pay every month. So basically the association pays the bill for the entire building. And I was pushing my board to go for green energy. And after a few months, they were like, would you like to volunteer to see whether we could do it or not? So that's when I called Pepco. And that's when I learned that the switch is very easy to go from the regular electric energy to green energy. We don't have to do anything, just to, go for the transition. But the price was higher. That's what the Pepco said. And I was like, okay, we're not going to pursue it anymore now. So, yeah.
Thank you, Raj. Yes, I do want to mention that in order to get community solar, you have to be paying a bill to the electric company. Yeah.
As an individual, you mean?
Yes, you have to be, your name has to be on the bill. Yeah,
Okay.
your own bill, right? And then I think, Leah, did you have a question? And I apologize if I said your
did.
name wrong.
No, that's exactly right. Thank you. So I actually had Jordan, I'm in Montgomery County Correctional Facility. I run reentry services for WorkSource Montgomery, and Jordan and another colleague from Gemini Energies came into the facility the other day to talk about solar. I was curious if, and opportunities for employment, right? I was curious if there was something that I could share with folks who may be interested in learning more, that might be kind of in alignment with the solar one-on-one. Maybe not all the information about installing solar, but just understanding a little bit more about the industry that I could share.
Sure, like a solar 101
yeah,
intro.
Yeah, if there was like
do you mind emailing me and I can send that to you offline?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Since this information has been posted in the chat for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. I had one closing question, Cindy, maybe that you can speak to. What are new enhanced technologies that are sort of coming down the pike related to solar systems or solar power that we should keep our eyes on?
Great question. Now, right now, before I forget, I'm going to put that link in for Solar United Neighbors if anybody is looking into community solar subscription. And then what's new in solar technology, basically? That's your question. So solar always changes. So you might say, well, I'm going to wait until the newest thing comes out. Well, you're going to be waiting forever because new things come out all the time. Solar technology itself is not new. They invented solar panels in the 50s, and they just keep improving them a little bit, making them a little bit more efficient. There are improvements in how the solar is installed on a roof. So there are solar roof tiles now that Tesla started, where they take off your current roof and put on solar shingles of different types. So that's cool and new. It's more expensive than installing solar on an existing roof. And there isn't a lot of financing available, although we're working on that. Let's see. EV charging is getting more and more easier to do. There are some rebates. So Pepco does provide a rebate. I think the other utilities may as well. You can check their websites on installing an EV charger in your home and get some money back on that. And then there are some grants available. So the federal tax credit for solar was increased to 30%, and that's for the next 10 years. There are also a lot of credits available for other kinds of technology like EVs, used EVs as well, EV charging, and energy efficiency measures. So the other thing we do at the Green Bank is energy efficiency. So reducing the amount of energy you use in your home or making it the way you use it more efficient. Sorry, I don't have anything just mind-blowing to tell you, but I wish I did.
It's okay. It's about getting the information out and making sure that we have the information, or at least like a compass of where to look for opportunities. In the chat, we've put a link to our survey. Please fill this out. I know we have some returning guests, but we always want to know, how was the session? How was the speaker? What else would you like to see here at the Hub? So if you could just take a few moments to fill that out. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank Cindy for this amazing presentation. It was so informative, and I learned so much information about solar. Already thinking about, what are some changes that I could make in my own life and my home to be more supportive of the environment and use sustainable resources that way. So thank you. I'm sorry we missed Jordan. We'll have to think about another way we can connect in the future and continue this conversation about sustainable energy. So with that, thank you everyone for filling out that survey. Cindy, I don't know if you have any last closing thoughts you want to share with us, and then we'll log off.
Just thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this kind of thing. It just makes my day. It makes what I do so much more fulfilling. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please feel free, anyone who wants to send me an email, don't be shy. Reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending this session.